Hi everyone. So for today's video, I want to provide a warning and a caution. Specifically, it's related to flights going to America out of the Dublin airport. Basically, any flight that has this quote-unquote pre-clearance. So I experienced this absolute nightmare. It's the best way I can describe it. A couple months ago, and I wanted to use the internet to spread the word because it came as a complete shock to me. I had no idea it would be this bad, and this is a good way that changes can happen. Now, I would love if the Dublin airport could fix this problem, possibly by working with the US, and I'm going to provide some suggestions. So, why do I start this video just completely dumping on this? Well, I'll tell you my experience. So I was flying with my father from Frankfurt to Dublin, and then from Dublin to Hartford. That's where we're going. And the flight from Frankfurt to Dublin was a little bit rocky for just, I would say, things that happen in flying. I was flying Aer Lingus, so that's the airline. What I'll say positive is in the flight, it was quite good experience. It's just everything around it, which is more the airport, that I really want to take some issues with. So the biggest thing is once you land in the Dublin airport, which I hadn't been to in quite a long time, the first thing to know is that it wasn't very clear. Things weren't labeled well, and I've been in a lot of airports. I fly a lot around Europe, and so here English is the primary language. You would expect it to be clear. It wasn't. So it was really tough to kind of figure out where we had to go. And we flew in from Frankfurt. Now, this is the first issue that I understand why they do this, but as a passenger, this is also the reason why I'm recommending not going here. So, as we all have to do when we fly, we have to go through security. No problem. So I did this in Frankfurt, and okay, it's normal, I expect that. Now, the crazy thing is, after landing in Dublin, we had to do, my father and I had to do the security again. And this was a bit strange. I really had never gone through this before. So, we land in Dublin. We walk a little bit to get to our area, and we have to go through the security. Fair enough, fine. I did again, take out the electronics. Anyone who's flown is used to the drill. No big deal. So we went through that, did the security. Also, a second thing that we had to do was, wait in line to show our passports, have them reviewed. Okay, no problem again. I'm used to it. But I figured it's over. Now I can board. No. This is where it gets really bad. And this is the worst flight experience I've ever had. That's why I'm not trying to be extreme. It was just horrible. So after going through security, I'm walking around with my father a bit more. There's very little information about our flight. It was very unclear we were supposed to go. People weren't very helpful. So then we finally get to the area. I can't really recall how we found it, but we did. And there's another security. I couldn't believe it. Keep in mind, I've already done 2 securities in about 2 hours. And there is another security, literally walking 5 minutes. Now, the reason they're saying is that once you enter this area, because I was flying out of Europe to the US, you're on US territory. I get it, but you have to understand, people are traveling, a lot of them are taking vacations. You're trying to have fun, and this is the best way to ruin the experience. I mean, you've already done security twice, and literally I did it 5 minutes ago, and now they do it again. And I said, look, don't you see? Can't you look at the records? Nope. So had to do the whole, take out the, it wasn't even like let's say, light version of security. It was electronics, remove, the belt and everything else, and I was like, fine. Figuring this is it. No, it got much, much worse. So we do that, and then I see one of the longest lines from flying I've ever seen. I mean, I can't describe how long this line was, All I can say is that the line was like wrapping around so much that before you can even get to the main line, there was another line. So you're in this little constricted area and you're crisscrossing people. I mean, it was just not designed at all for the volume of people. That's the first critique I have of all of this, is that the Dublin airport needs to find a better way, at least to shuffle all these people through. So the first thing which I've covered is you have double security. Don't ask me why. I don't know why this is. It makes no sense. The second is you have just this horrible way of organizing all the people coming through, because the line was outrageous. I mean, when I looked at it, I thought it was a joke. And, people were joking. I mean, it was a consensus among everyone there. And this is why I'm doing the video. I didn't find anything online about this, nothing warning me. And that's why I'm encouraging you, just don't fly out of Dublin. Don't fly Aer Lingus connections. Somehow get a different way. Or just don't, make a trip to another country. Don't fly through Ireland. This is my suggestion, because it was horrible. I mean, because of things I won't blame Aer Lingus for, I had to sprint and run pretty quick with my father to go from Frankfurt to Dublin. And we were afraid we would miss the flight. You don't want to miss an international flight. So this whole time in line, I didn't have anything to drink. It was getting a little warm. It was around the springtime. And look, I'm a trooper. I can live without food for a bit. But if it's just not good to go 3 or 4 hours without anything to drink, or at least not having the opportunity. There's nowhere to even buy anything. You're just waiting in line. So, I survived. I'm starting to get dehydrated, and you shouldn't have this experience when you're traveling and trying to enjoy your time. I mean, it was just a real buzzkill on what was a nice trip. So we're waiting and waiting, and here's the next part. We're waiting in line. There's other people also going to the Bradley Airport who are waiting in line, and there is zero communication, nothing. No one telling us if the flight is delayed, if we're making the flight, and people were starting to get really upset. I mean, I was kind of joking because what are you going to do? But there was not a single representative at all from Aer Lingus to tell us anything. The only person was this, security guard. She didn't have a gun or anything like that, but had a vest, and I felt so bad for this woman. She was very professional, but basically she was just like just absorbing everyone's complaints. It's the best way I can put it. Just everyone was asking, do you have any information? Could you tell us? I mean, they couldn't even make an announcement, and it was so poorly organized there. Now, what this pre-clearance is what I learned is we were flying to Bradley, which just, unlike JFK Airport on the East Coast, Bradley Airport doesn't have a way for the U.S. government to kind of do their due diligence and, clearance and anyone coming in. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, once you get into this so-called American part of the Dublin airport, you're on U.S. territory and they have to do their own kind of screening. Fair enough. That's fine. You have to go through this little kiosk, take your information, and then hand it. I have no problem with this, but it is so poorly done. The shocker to me is there was maybe 3 to 4 people who had to review all the passengers coming in, and there was a lot of empty areas. Now, this was a Sunday. Maybe, I don't know, maybe because it was a Sunday, some people called in sick. I'm not sure, but it was incredibly understaffed, and there was a lot of just empty workspaces, meaning you could have put more people there. So, I don't know if it requires too much training to have people do this. I'm not sure, but it was so understaffed that I had to wait an hour and a half. And during this time, people on my flight were freaking out because there's no information. Nobody knew if we were going to even make the flight. No one from Aer Lingus came. I've been at other airports in Warsaw and in Kiev where there's a bottleneck at the passport area, going in between the Schengen, when you're coming in or leaving, for obvious reasons. And what they would often do is send an airport representative out there who would, have everyone on the flight that's about to leave move to the top. They didn't do this. There's one woman in particular who started yelling, accusing another security guy who kind of came out of nowhere of calling her a name. She was demanding his full name to report him. He said no. She started swearing at him. I mean, it was one of those things where you could feel the tension boiling up. And we even asked this security guard, who was the only person there, and she said, "Oh, it's like this all the time." And I said, "Well, I have to do something, because it was a terrible experience." I mean, so much I'm encouraging people, just stay out of the Dublin airport if you're using it to fly to the U.S., because I'll never do this again. Like I said, double security and then waiting in line an hour and a half. And I got a text message, of course, after the fact saying, please be at the airport 3 hours before in preparation of pre-clearance. 3 hours? Okay, the general idea is 2, but an extra hour, I mean, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Like I said, all in all, it was a terrible experience. I did make the flight, so I wasn't late, but keep in mind, since we landed in Frankfurt, because the flight was delayed, which I don't blame airports for that. I'd rather be safe and have a delayed flight, but I was running, didn't have anything to drink, and of course we had to run. As soon as we went through, we had to run, and we were one of the last people on the flight, so the flight took off maybe 15 minutes after. And there was people further and back. Maybe they missed the flight. So really, I mean, they have to get their act together in Dublin if they're going to be offering these transatlantic flights to the U.S. because, I know a big way airports make their money are from sales and food. There wasn't even an opportunity. Like I said, I wanted to get a water, just something. There's no chance for food or anything. Luckily, when I got in the plane, but the airport lost money on us. I would have gladly bought something to eat, maybe even a beer, some souvenirs. No chance for that. I mean, we were running from the moment we landed. We were running at every point, i.e. 2 securities, 2 passport checks, and then all of this. No opportunity. So the airport is losing money at the moment doing this, or at least losing on potential revenue. So I wanted to share this experience here and spread the word. I mean, I can, like I said, and I keep repeating, I will not fly out of Dublin Airport to America ever again. I will wait to read reports and see if it's better, but that was such a horrible experience, and I couldn't find anything, so I'm hoping with this video, some of you may catch this, and really, just go to a different country, fly out of somewhere else, but until they get their act together in Dublin, do not fly out of that airport if you're heading to the U.S. You will have a horrible, horrible experience. You're going to wait in line. You'll feel like you'll miss your flight. No one will tell you anything. It's just chaos there. They really need to get their act together. So thank you for your time.